Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Adam Sass. And today we are joined by the one and only mother of Buffy, Joyce Summers.
And I'm Kristine Sutherland, otherwise known
Hi,
as Joyce Summers. I'm so happy to be here, you guys. Thank you.
Oh my gosh,
Kristine.
what a delight, what an honor.
I have to say, we've had quite a few folks from the show on. People were
Mhm.
so excited when I posted about having you on.
This
People
is
were like,
different.
Oh, great.
This is different. Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm sure this is no surprise to you, but our audience is a lot of like queer folks, and oh boy, everyone's like, oh my God, you have mom on. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I
right.
know. It's like, how did I get so lucky to be known in the world as like the mother that people wanted? I mean, I just like don't think there's anything better in show business than that,
Oh.
besides being a vampire slayer.
Fair, fair. Before I ask you some Joyce specific questions, do you want to tell us about your audition and how you came to the role?
Yeah, it was I still think about it and it was so amazing. I wanted to quit. I wanted to stop acting and do something else. And I wasn't sure what yet, but I knew I just like pulling the plug on acting was and saying to my agent, I'm done. That's what I needed to just kind of, it's really hard to pull away. So he called me and he goes, "Oh, we had this audition for you." And I was like, "Great, great, 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 great." I'm thinking, okay, I'll do one more audition. I just don't have the guts to tell him. And, clearly I was very conflicted about it. So I went in and I did the audition and I walk in and David is in the room waiting for his audition as well. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a really handsome guy. And, I bet he's going to get cast for whatever he's auditioning for. And I went in, I had very little material. It was kind of, well, yes, hun. Or I think that's a great idea. I mean, it was nothing you could sink your teeth in and get a feeling for who it was, but it was a mother. So I was pretty much just myself. And usually with that little amount of material to work with, you're not really expecting anything, but it's like I caught this little thing in his eye and I thought, "Oh dear, I might get this and I'm about to retire." Not really retire, but launch myself into some new career.
Yeah.
Um, and then they called and offered me the part, and it was kind of like, this is so fantastic. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun
You know,
doing it. So
that's really nice to hear that like you were like, maybe I'll stop, and then you got a really good meaty
right,
role.
right, the
That's
best, the
nice.
best ever.
That's
So
a great.
yeah, never quit. Just
Yeah,
go back to Santa Monica
yeah.
College and take some classes, which is what I did after they killed me off.
Or like you kind of like summon the like life-changing job by like saying you're gonna quit. You kind of like
Exactly,
haunt it out of the
exactly.
universe. Yeah. Yeah.
No, as an actor, if you ever wanted to a job, decide that you're taking a vacation.
Yeah.
It works every time.
Adam and I both are writers, and Adam, like, we both talked
Mhm.
about like, our like struggles and stuff. We would always like compare and be like, oh my God. And, it is inspiring because Adam, who we've been friends for, oh gosh, Adam, like almost 10 years now.
Oh God, no, that was 11 years, dear.
Oh,
Yes.
geez.
Yes.
So we knew each other before, we had like anything going. And Adam
Mhm.
has now had, how many books have you had published now, Adam? Like,
Four books out and a fifth coming out next year. So yeah,
Oh,
it was a similar.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't like exactly one to one what in your experience, but like that was 7 years of nothing, and or some things, but not the
Yeah.
thing. And even my first book was, it was at a smaller publisher, and then I got my really big book at Penguin Random House on a thing that I really truly told my agent I didn't want. Like they came to me with a job, and I was just like, oh, I don't
Hmm.
really have time for like it was a romantic comedy, and I was like, well, I kind of want to do horror, and I like all this, like this stuff, and they were like, just try a romance, and I was like, okay, let me just do that, and it changed my life. Like I think you do need
Oh,
to kind of throw it away a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way,
That
I'm still thinking, do I really want to still audition? And it's been like, if it's 25 years from the body, then it's like what, 30 years later, and I still just can't.
Yeah.
My life is so full and so great.
Mm.
Um, but I'm still auditioning. So yeah.
nice.
Wonderful.
I mean, I feel like Buffy was one of those every working piece was at 100%, and that doesn't normally happen, especially back then.
Yeah.
And all of y'all were so great in the roles. I have recently realized, I think Adam and I might have texted about this, that
Mhm.
I am now the age of Joyce and Giles from season one. Um,
No.
and I'm
We
like,
had
but
that moment, yeah, which was
they're the
very fun.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're living every day like it's band candy episode. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
In season one, I feel like season two is when Joyce started getting more involved and you got a little bit more to
Mhm.
do. What was that like? Was there a conversation of, we're going to give you a little bit more action-y involvement, or?
Oh, I was really happy about it because I never saw anybody the first season.
Oh, right.
It,
Yeah.
so
Right.
we were showing up either out in the house down south in California to work there or um, for an out. I just wasn't that involved and I didn't get a chance to meet. So it was really just Sarah and I that whole first season. So, when the masks turned on alive in my bedroom, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love this. I hope I get to do more, right?
One of my favorite Joyce moments is in season two when she's wielding an axe and you get to
Oh
tell Spike
Yeah.
yeah.
to get the hell away from your daughter. Very Ellen Ripley from Aliens, like so
Yes.
good.
That axe was so damn heavy, you know? Oh my gosh, I had no idea how heavy an axe was.
Was it a real axe? I just assumed it was a prop.
Yeah. No,
Oh.
no, it was a real axe.
Love it.
Yeah.
This is
All
so
right.
great.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
this
you
is
even
something,
tougher then.
yeah, and
Yeah, I
this
go to
is
the
like,
gym now, so I could throw it across a
Got
room.
two. Yeah.
yeah, I always wonder, like, it's these kind of times where, I was an actor forever ago, and you just it's a little de-glamorous to like be on set, like you don't really you're like you don't realize until like you've seen the thing that's like, oh, it's all part of a world, but like, yeah, you're kind of in this bottle for the
Hmm.
first little bit, and then you kind of start getting integrated a little bit more, and you're just suddenly having this incredible, like I episode of yours I always think of like constantly is the season two finale, where it really kind of you learn everything about Buffy, and then even like the ending where she's leaving town, and just even like this one shot you do, which is where you're just reading the note. We don't even see what the note is, but it was just it's like it has stayed with me since I saw it live. Like it is just like it's probably like not a month goes by that I don't think of that moment.
Oh,
Even in moments when I'm like just like peeved about something, I'm like, and I see some news I don't like, and I'm just like, I just think of how you did that.
no, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it is weird. That's the funny thing about film and television versus theater. Like even if your scenes in a play are only with, like, say you have two, three scenes and they're only with one person, you're still a part of the company. You know, you're backstage, you're in the same place physically. It's all happening in that one night or that one performance. And that I love film and television. I just love the medium. But that's the weird thing is that it seems like a cast, but sometimes depending on the project, you're not with anybody else. So it felt very much that way initially, and I was so glad when it opened up and now going to various cons and things. It's been so fun to get to know everybody as adults
You do cons regularly, fairly regularly, right?
fairly regularly. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to know how many at every con, how many gay men are coming up to you and like having emotions.
Oh, a lot, and I love it. I love it. I mean, I too was a somebody who didn't fit in at all. And my mother, bless her, I loved and adored her, but she had mental health problems. So, my childhood was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And so, just that to be able to embrace everybody that I know felt that way, and I'm older, so like I remember the early years in New York where people were coming to New York just to have some freedom from all the, you couldn't, it was really hard to be in a small town
Yeah.
or to be outside of San Francisco or New York, a big city where you could find people like you. And, I was just thinking the other day, this might be a little off topic, but I was thinking about, because there's a lot of trans out here where I live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I just love them because they're kind of everywhere. You pop into UPS and this guy's got this great hair. And one of my grandson's teachers at preschool is trans.
Oh, cute.
And I was just thinking about when I was first in New York, which was way back in the late 70s, early 80s. So
Pretty
life was really different back then. Everywhere, but especially in New York. And I lived on 96th Street, which was a really big trans neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
And, I was just thinking about how, well, we won't talk about recent history, okay?
Yeah.
We won't get into that, but how much has changed over the decades since that time, and how how pushed to the corners they were, particularly
Yeah.
at that time. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just like popped into my
Hmm.
head yesterday.
It's funny that you say that because I was thinking of my mother when I came out was a little bit like, well, but how do you know? Are you sure? Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And but my mother also is the one that got me into Buffy, and she always held
Mm.
a Latin mother holds a grudge. I don't know if you're familiar, but
Yeah, yeah, my am.
she was like, I remember when Joyce did not didn't accept Buffy. I didn't like that. And I was like, well, like one of our like last conversations, I was like, well, mom, you weren't that nice. And she actually said, well, I thought of how it was when I was younger. And she was like, I even thought of Matthew Shepard. And then that's why I was nervous. And it kind of like
Yeah,
made me like look at it differently. Like, oh, that makes more sense. That's why she would have been a little bit more nervous, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And I don't know. I think about things like that all the time. It's one of the cool things about getting older is you realize you have lived through history. And so, something that kind of seems like it was not that long ago
Yeah.
is like really long ago. And you're like, wow. And, you put yourself like New York in the 80s, that is like it was a really historic time. And I was just there thinking that New York was always that way. And now it was like, wow, I was there in the 80s.
How long did you
So,
live in New
yeah,
York? How long did you live there?
42 or 43 years.
Okay, cool. Is that where you were from?
No, I was from Kentucky, and
Okay.
I needed to get out too desperately.
I didn't move to New York, but I moved to LA for college when I was 18, and I had left Illinois,
Yeah.
and I was in a very rural farming town. And it's actually fun. This is actually comes up a lot on Slayerfest. We always like sort of, what's your first Buffy thing? And I was like, well, my town, I like to say they banned it, but like they just stopped carrying the WB at after season 3. So like it just
Oh,
cut it off. And I was like following it, and like season 3 happened, and then they were like, hey, season 4 is gonna be college and there's an angel show now. And I just was like, I truly was like, you have cut. And so it was about I think it was about 2 years of just nothing. And then I got out to LA, and then they were starting to put out the DVDs, and I just was like, I have to catch up with what's going on. I'm
yeah.
sure Joyce is fine in the later seasons.
Surely she'll be
Yeah.
okay for the rest of the
Oh,
series.
I mean, LA, New York, San Francisco, they were such meccas. And of course, we were in the theater, and our daughter grew up around that. And she
Yeah.
used to say, when I grow up, I want to have a gay son. But, not just a gay son. I want him to be really, 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 really gay. We would go, yeah, that's cool. That's
You're like,
cool.
all right.
Great, great.
That's so cute.
She has her godfather. is gay, and so he then now he has a significant other, and so they are called the Gunkles.
Oh,
That's cute.
yeah.
It's funny when you grow up with it. My nephew he just turned 12. When he
Hmm.
was, I think, one, maybe two, I was still living in New York and I had come home to visit. And I think my mom was like, he was allowed to do whatever he wanted. He was on the table and my mom was like putting his shirt on and he pointed to my boyfriend at the time, went, "Who's that?" And my mom said, "Oh, that's Uncle Ian's boyfriend." And he went, "Oh, hi, Uncle Ian's boyfriend." And I turned to my dad and said, "Wow, he said that easier than your mom did." Because, he's a kid. So to him, it was like, okay, that's
Yeah,
that's what that
yeah.
is. No big deal. So today is the 25th anniversary. Today, the date we're recording is the 25th anniversary of The
Oh my
Body,
gosh,
which is, I
that
didn't
is
even
so
realize,
wild.
yeah, I didn't realize till yesterday. I was like, wow, that's so weird. We landed on the date that's the anniversary of The Body. Anything comes to your mind about filming? Anything?
Oh, it was so personal. It was so deeply, deeply personal because my mother had died of an aneurysm.
Oh, Jesus.
So even though I knew I was going to die, I didn't find out how I was going to die
Okay.
until like the day the script arrived, which was, it was 1 or 2 days before you start shooting. And so that was kind of like, wow, because it's not that common.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but it was just so bittersweet. It had just been such a beautiful ride for me. And so just first the loss of the show, even though I had known and I was reconciled to it, it's like when somebody's terminal, actually losing them
Yeah.
is still really hard. So that was it was a big transition for me. But I had also, I had lost my dad when I was young. And so it just brought back all the memories of lose. I lost my boyfriend when I was 15. I lost my
Ugh.
dad when I was like 26. So I had experienced death at an early age, which was exactly what Josh was writing about,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I thought he did a brilliant job on that show. Like when I read it, I just couldn't stop crying because I was like, God, he knows what
Yeah.
it's like to be there and to just go, what do I wear to a funeral?
Yeah.
Like I have no idea. I haven't done this in my life. I don't know. Like I remember just like when my boyfriend died, sitting on the steps outside in the sun and going, where did he go? I mean, how can he not be here? And that shock and that complete lack of like your friends, it isn't happening to them. Your parents can't really help you because they're too old and you have no idea. You are just so lost. And I thought that he really captured all the different facets of that with each of the characters in the show, all the different possible reactions that you could
Yeah.
have. So I was just amazed. And then, of course, my own personal grief,
Yeah.
because when she comes in that door and she goes, Mom, I mean, I'm supposed to be dead. I'm like, tears are just, you know, I'm like in the audience watching the whole thing, going, I know I'm not supposed to have these, but I mean, just like when they're just flowing down your cheeks. So it brought up so many memories for me. Um, and so I felt, even though I was a body, I felt so alive
Yeah.
during the filming of it because it just like, every grief reopens another one. And through that process, it's so wild now at the end of my life. All my friends are still alive, but we're all getting older, and you never know when they're
Yeah.
going to go. And
Yeah.
you realize, you know what, at this point in my life, I've like, had a lot of practice at this. I've had a lot of experience with it. So I have all these coping mechanisms that I've built over my life to sort of understand it, know how to process it, all of that. And then, but when you're young, you don't have any of that. And
Yeah. At 15.
the
Oof.
most, oh my gosh, the amazing thing is when people come up to me in a con and they go, I lost my mother when I was 15, or I lost my dad. But most of the time it's their mother. And they're like, you helped me finish growing up. I mean, that is
Oh,
like, could you
Jesus.
do anything better in the world with your life? You know,
I hope you are
Yeah.
screw
so
the
proud of that.
lawyers.
Yeah.
Screw being a lawyer or a,
Yeah.
doctor on ER. It was like, man, you guys, this is where it's happening.
It's I'm sure Adam, you were thinking of you know what I'm going to say next.
I know. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, Kristine, I lost my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend
Mhm.
on July 6th, and 8 years later, my mom passed on the exact same day, which was
Oh,
so
wow.
weird and so like every time I say it out loud, I'm like, this sounds like a lie. This sounds made up, because it's such a
Yeah.
weird coincidence. And yeah, honestly, like rewatching the body still, I made me cry before I had all, that loss. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
now, oh boy, yeah. Uh,
Yeah. It's rough. My heart goes out to you.
thank you.
It's
It was.
also an amazing thing because I think going through death, losing someone, it's one of the most profound things that can happen to you. I don't know. I listen to Cooper Anderson all the time
Oh yeah, yeah,
because I just really feel so strongly that it is in that pain that we learn how to live.
yeah.
And so it's all still really painful, but I love to tap back into the grief that I feel because it's what makes me feel alive. It's an amazing thing how that happens, you know? You
I like that framing. I do. I like that framing
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
I found it to be very clarifying that it just things that I'm so worried about or thought were so important
Hmm.
in grief moments, it always just falls away. And there is this sort of dullness where that used to be. And it just was like, oh, I guess I didn't need that. It really just burns away everything else you don't need because it's like, well, I lost this, I lost something that was just so much more important. So if I can emerge through that, you just kind of like
Yeah.
it just recenters everything.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I think more as you struggle with it more and more, and as you struggle with other things that bring you grief that aren't necessarily the loss of someone, but like it's so I find that I'm able to say in a way that I never could before when I was younger. Yeah, I got to do this really awful thing tomorrow that's really anxiety producing, but I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm
I like
alive. And
that.
that is so key that I just don't feel the anxiety that much. It's like, oh, I'll get through it. But I'm alive today. That's like awesome.
Man, Kristine, I'm
So,
gonna have you as my life coach. This is good.
no, it's such a journey. I mean, we never stop growing up. That's what I loved about Buffy is, if you're living right, you're never grown up. You're always going, oh, yeah. Yeah, it's always getting better and better, even if it gets worse and worse,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my mom was not the demographic for the show. She was, parent age when the show was airing. And
Yeah.
she would always joke. She'd be like, I don't care that it stars teenagers. I still can relate. Like, she would, like, still, and I don't know. I think about that a lot with the show. Like you said, it's like you're always kind of growing up. And as a teenager, you don't think of that as the
Right.
adults are like adults. That feels like
Right.
a finished
Right.
line. But then when you're an adult, it's like, oh, that's not how that goes.
Yeah, there was this older guy who worked at the Gap. He was probably like the manager or something, and he was just really cool. This guy, he had like silver hair. I just like when I first saw him, and he would come up to me. I don't know, he must have been in my neighborhood or something, somewhere on my path in LA, and he was a huge fan of the show. I
Oh, it
mean,
was when it was already on.
right out of the gate in LA, he was a big fan. And I was like, he is so cool because he knows because a lot of people at that time were like, oh, it's a kid show. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
WB, it's not like, it's
Yeah.
not like, you know,
The Sopranos or
ER.
yeah, yeah.
And, I think the show has certainly stood the test of time. as long, if not longer, than some of those shows that were really popular
Oh,
around
for
us at the
sure. Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the regulars that we have on the podcast is Emily Nussbaum. She's a like Pulitzer Prize winner for like TV criticism. And she
Hmm.
had said, right, Adam, numerous times that Buffy is what made her want to write TV
Yeah,
criticism because she
yeah.
would go to parties in New York and like you said, people would be like, "Oh, well, that's for teens," and she'd be like, "Yeah, and it's really good." Like,
And it was just never really in that sort of like any conversation. I mean, I know, like, just, I mean,
Right.
Oscars and Emmys just are always very genre,
averse, yeah,
allergic, but a little less so now, but still, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
especially horror and stuff with makeup effect, that's always like, it gets technical stuff maybe, but like to really get to the core, like on some of these episodes and some of these performances, it speaks in such a way that like it stuck with me in a way that like whatever like Tony thing I was watching at the time
yeah.
maybe had
Yeah.
not. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I first read the script, I was like, this is so different. And even the first day of shooting, I happened to be working that day. I was just like, I could feel like I didn't even question that it wasn't gonna go. It just felt so exciting. It wasn't kind of like, is this any good? I hope this goes. It'd be really great if it did. It was just like, this is happening, you know?
I love that. I was going to ask you when you thought you knew it was going to be big, but I love that you, from the gate out,
Yeah,
you were like,
day
"Yep."
one. I was so nervous. I was so nervous, and I was in the car and I was picking Sarah up from school, Buffy up from school, and she gets into the car and I'm really nervous. So I'm not talking. And Sarah's just like, "Da, da, 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 da." And I'm so distracted because I'm thinking, am I going to remember my lines? Am I going to be okay? And when they went action, I had the car in reverse. And thank God I realized it and stopped because, I could have like taken out people, a few light stands, you know.
Suddenly you owe the set money.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
please don't fire me.
And this is something where there's, I'm sure you mentioned the sort of crossroads you were at before landing the job. This is something where, I hear from so many actors, on so many different shows and
Mhm.
movies where, at this point when you do a lot of auditions, you read a lot of junk,
Yeah,
like, and you get to
yeah.
that point where you're just, when you see something that is working and clicking, it just must be so like,
Oh,
clarifying
it's
in a
so
way.
exciting. I always think about what would it be like to be a dancer, to just like throw yourself, to be able to express yourself that extensively, or a singer. It's like flying, but when acting is really good, it's like flying too.
That makes
And
sense.
you're
Yeah.
right. It's like when every piece is working, it just like becomes something else and it starts to lift off.
I mean, you both with Sarah and Michelle had very good family energy, like the three of you. And that's not always the case on
Mhm.
shows, right? Like sometimes it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that person's playing the parent, but like they feel like strangers, or a couple feels
right,
like strangers.
right. It's chemistry, and that kind of stuff just happens.
Yeah. When was it? Did you guys have to do any like mother daughter chemistry reads or kind of just went
No,
in and, hmm.
yeah, I just showed up and backed the car up in front of the school. No, it
Excellent.
just like happened. It was really, really nice. You know, it
I
just
think
felt right out of the gate that it
was
was
like,
just
yeah.
really good. It was really good.
I love that. I think Amber Benson has said the same thing when I had her on, that her and Allison didn't need to do chemistry
Yeah.
reads, and then were just had the chemistry.
It's a
Which is
lucky
wild,
show.
especially
Everything just
back then.
felt like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Band Candy because that's one of my favorite Joyce
Okay.
episodes.
Yes.
Um, how do you feel about that episode? Do you like that episode?
Oh, it was really fun.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the funnest. And I didn't you just show up and just say, tell me what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Give me my lines, I'll do it. I'm not one of those actors who's like, well, I wouldn't do that, and I don't know what I'm just tell me what you want me to do. I'll show up and I'll do it. So, oh, now I've completely lost my. So I didn't really have expectations of what it would be like, but it was clearly going to be fun. But like the outfit, sometimes things outside just like they trigger everything. That's like all you need. And that outfit was just like, I got this. I
It
got
was a good
this.
outfit.
You can get your character from a boa too. Um, so, but what I hadn't really even thought about was that it would genuinely, like, I knew we were going to act like teenagers, but what I didn't anticipate was that I was going to feel like a teenager. And it took me back to places that I had not touched in so long. And all those anxieties and that were going on under the like thing,
Yeah.
you know, uh, were all there. I mean, when I sat with Anthony Giles in his apartment listening to records. I mean, all that was going through my head was, God, does he really like me? What if I don't know what this song is? Like, and I'm not cool enough? And what will I say? And is he going to dump me? I mean, all that stuff was, and that it was hard. You go, oh yeah, it was hard, it was hard, it was hard. But when you're like right there in it again that was really uh, something I didn't wasn't really prepared for. And the parent relate daughter relationship was so turned in reverse, and that was really fun too.
And you and Anthony have really good chemistry as well. You both did, especially as teenagers, you both did it so perfectly. I feel
Thank
like that's
you.
like a pretty big fan favorite episode, right, Adam? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
say?
Oh, so much like honestly, I'm a little like this. So I have history with this episode with my mom, who
Mhm.
did not watch the show. It's just she was definitely like, about what? Like so, but this was when it was first airing, and I literally was on when that episode first aired. I missed it because like so normally like I would be free at night to watch it, but for some I was literally at a band thing that I had to go like be at band for that, and I like gave my mom like very specific like VCR recording if that's it's
No.
and I was like record it this time it just started here, it's on that channel, and she was like I got it, I got it, I got it, like it
Oh.
got messed up, so like I didn't get to see the episode. I just remember being so like this was really important. No, no. And then I don't think I caught it again. And there was a bunch of episodes that I had to wait until I was like all the way in college to like see. But I was like, that could have
Yeah,
been
because
yeah.
there was just that beginning of being
Yeah.
able to record stuff.
Hmm.
It hadn't been going on for that long.
Yeah.
What was it
No.
that I remember like around that time meeting and talking with a woman who's a comedian and her talking about we have this really cool box, and you can
Mm.
record things. It was like, wow, that is really cool. How much does it cost? And but yeah, things just weren't accessible to you if you missed it.
Yeah. It was just going like, and I don't even know how I knew episodes order. Like I didn't know like I'm like I didn't even like now it's all like categorized on Netflix or whatever. But like
Right, right.
I don't know. I'm like, how do I know which one is the one? And I feel like I used to have that muscle, and now it's withered away because I'd just be like, you could just drop me in the middle of an episode and I wouldn't maybe know the right order of it. But like I think back then, being in high school, I was just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
this is the one that goes to the air. I somehow just figured it out. But
Yeah.
no,
No,
I loved that episode.
yeah, I mean the at the time that we were shooting it, I think it was Tuesdays. I think the show was on Tuesday
Yeah.
night
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah.
And so at lunch on Tuesday, which would be relatively early because you start really, really early during the week and you get later and later. So it was pretty much kind of normal lunchtime on Tuesday. And they would wheel in this big giant TV. Remember like when you were in school and they had the
Yep.
TV on that big stand and with the wheels at the bottom? So and it's like, 30 inches deep.
Yeah.
And they would wheel
Wait,
it
what?
into the room that where we ate our lunch. So we'd get our lunch off of craft services outside, and this is where the tables were set up, and you came and you had lunch. And on Tuesday at lunchtime, everybody watched the show who was on the show because you wouldn't get home in time to watch it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's such a nice moment that you did
Oh,
that.
that's so
Like,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
was
you couldn't talk. Like if somebody from the union came to lunch one day and they wanted to talk about things, and the crew were all like, shh, shh, like, what the hell are you doing? We were watching the show. And everybody who worked on the show, I think, was a big fan of the show. All the crew. I mean, they were a young crew and they were so great about what they did. And I think they knew long before I did that there were people out there watching.
Mhm.
They were more tuned into the internet and what was happening out there
yeah.
than I was. Because the first time I really knew is I had forgotten to put on a pair of earrings that I'd had on in the other scene. And I was like, who'll notice? And they went, oh, no, people will really notice. You don't understand. I was like, oh, okay.
I feel like Adam, right? That was probably some eagle-eyed gay kid being like, I noticed that earring.
If you're noticing Joyce's earrings, yes, you're probably
Yeah.
yeah. Bless you, bless you. Yeah, I mean that's something where like I mean I really responded to that because I probably should have. I know this is like horrible to say now because like I'm trying to get away from the internet more now, but like I'm like I probably should have been on the internet more then because when I was in my just little town of like 400 people. Like
Mhm.
I was the only human being who knew the show existed. And I was like, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. So the very idea that like all these years later, I'm like talking to people, anyone about it, much less like, you about this, like
Yeah.
this gags me because I thought it was this little piece of gold I found on the beach and no one else knew about it.
Yeah. But also, you didn't have anybody to share it with.
No, it was,
I mean, and that's one of the great things about it is it's like it's a whole gang of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it was like chat rooms at that
I
time.
think they might have just been starting around then, I
Yeah.
think.
oh yeah.
It's funny that you say that because Adam, you and when we got to Chosen, when we did the finale,
Hmm.
because now we're revisiting everything as it turns 25, but we did a first go through. And Adam, I always think of you say this that like Buffy was like your friend group, that like they were our friends when we were younger, and it was like our
I
weekly
didn't have
sitting with our
friends, but
friends.
they were my like it was you guys like that was like got me through like the middle school to high school like got me through that time like and that was why it was like oh my god it was so isolating as soon as they took the show away but it was no those were I mean and I don't say that with embarrassment I was just I'm like no I think like there's the parasocial conversation to be had about getting too familiar but I think like I had a nice where I was just like no this was I'm just going to see my friends at the end of the
Yeah.
day and I think like
Yeah.
even seeing them be friends and seeing how they interacted I was just like
Hmm.
yeah, when I do get to LA, this is how I'm going to interact with people. I came in a
And
little
you
hot,
did,
probably.
right?
Yeah.
And good.
Oh, yeah.
It came
Opened
true.
up. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I don't
know.
know.
I actually, I don't know that I've ever shared this with anybody like outside my family or my friends, but I was 12 years old and I was sitting on the edge, such drama, right? I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and just sitting there with my hands on my lap in my bedroom on my bed. It was a really huge room. And my mother like peeked in the door and she went, "What are you doing, honey?" And I went, "I'm waiting to grow up."
Oh,
That's so cute.
that's so real. That's so, yes, correct.
I knew when I was 12 that it just was a matter of time and I just had to get to New York City. I just knew that that's where I had to go.
Hmm.
That's so
So,
sweet,
Very
Christine.
true. So correct. And thank you for sharing that because that's
Yeah.
very much, I don't think I ever vocalized that because I was definitely, I felt like I was waiting out, a sentence
yeah,
where I was like, oh,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And when my daughter was young, which is why we were shooting Buffy, she was 5 when I started.
Um,
She wasn't, she didn't have the same issue, but she was really timid, shy. And she was just having trouble socially, blending in with just kindergarten.
yeah.
And she was just kind of anxious and she really liked being with adults. So like she just didn't really quite know what to do with other kids. So I started saying to her when she was like 5, honey, you were born to be 30. I promise you.
Yep.
All of these kids will catch up to you when you're 30, when you're all 30, and it's going to be wonderful. And, of course, life went on, but, the friends in, like, even through high school, she didn't, like, have
Yeah.
like real grounded friends that she was going to stay with. But by college, she did. And, when she turned 30, I went, I was right, right? She went, yes, you were, Mom.
I
You
think
know,
a lot of I mean it makes sense that you said that you kind of felt that way when you were younger because a lot that's right, Adam, that's very true to the queer experience too of
yeah.
like
Yeah, it's queer. It's also just when you're just not fine. Like I think you were if you're a person of taste too. Like you just there's the
Right.
little bit of it. And like I think just some people are just more mature on the inside, and I think a lot of queer people, even in a very
Yeah.
supportive, loving family, I think it's just very native to the queer experience to have this sort of feeling of needing to really cultivate this very independent personality because you kind of have to be ready to be jettisoned at any moment. There is that
Hmm.
fear that kind of you sit with, and so there is this sort of you become this sort of one man band, and you're kind of like like oh cool I'm here right now, but like the minute they the minute they discover me like get me out of here. Which of
yeah.
course, on the other side of this, no one thought that or was going to do that. Like but it is this thing, and I
Yeah.
think that really matures you super fast
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
inside. Yeah.
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 No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents were divorced when I was 12 at a time when you were socially a pariah. I mean, people would like, I mean, it's hard to imagine today, right? But people would look at you
Right.
and go, you'd see them go,
God.
um, so
Uh,
yeah. And if you're a sensitive person,
that too.
if you're an HSP, highly sensitive person, it can be a little too rough and tumble in kindergarten.
You know, I
Yes.
remember I accidentally once at like I think we are either leaving for the day or at recess. I like threw my jacket on and I accidentally like my zipper hit a girl in the cheek and I went home crying because I was like, they thought I hit her and I wouldn't do that. Like it like was a total
Yeah.
accident
My
because I
God.
was like so
Yes.
sensitive and I didn't like the idea that
Oh,
someone thought I did that on purpose.
yeah. And my grandson is like that. He
Cute.
gets along, but I see him if it gets too overwhelming for him, the whole like social scene, whether
Yeah.
it's being with adults or a holiday or even at school, he's so smart because he will go off by himself to play. It's like he doesn't expect himself to be like he's so true to himself and what
That's
he
cute.
needs. And sometimes I'll look at him and he's so far away. He's working on something.
That's great.
So, yeah, there's a
Um,
lot of us oh, I remember kindergarten. I couldn't figure out why all the other girls didn't like me. And I came up with the answer one day. I was so excited. I was like, they all have long hair. And my mother cut my hair in this, like, pixie with the bangs with herself with the scissors,
Oof.
and they all have long hair. So I went to kindergarten. My mom said I could grow my hair long. And then I waited for that mom to go, oh, come be with us,
Oh,
uh,
that's so
I,
sweet.
oh,
Little baby Kristine.
Yes. Why do I not fit in?
um,
it sounds like your grandson's gonna have a very great internal life, and I've said this a million times. Like the best thing like any human being can do is be your own best friend. So even then, when I'm
Yeah.
saying like, oh, the Buffy characters were my friend, like I still don't look back on my childhood with like pain or sadness. I just go, I had a great time like sitting there doing my own thing and watching Buffy and like
Mhm.
picking up things and writing stories. I'm getting paid for it now. Like I think if you find that security in having alone time and you're not alone when
Mhm.
you're alone, that's just going to be the number one tool you take your whole life. So I'm really glad to hear your
Yeah.
grandson's got that
Yeah.
going on.
No, and it's about being true to yourself.
Yes.
which is a big part of Buffy too.
Yes,
Like
yes.
she has a hard time accepting being, not just me, but it was hard for her to reconcile that
Yeah.
that was her destiny, that that's who she was.
And I mean, that's another reason, we've had a few writers from the show on as well, and they're always like, yeah, it definitely was a queer show before we had even out characters because of
Right,
that, like, and
right.
I do think that's true, that like that's why a lot of us related to Buffy, because it was like we also kind of, right, Adam, it's like you kind of wanted to be her too, because it was like, oh, she's so
Oh
pretty and she gets to
yeah.
dress so nice.
I know.
I think also like because she was just kind of real, like she had her moments of like glamour, but then also like real, and then I think there was a lot of I think there was this kind of like I don't think this was a classic like trying to have it all story,
Yeah.
but like there was a
No.
little bit of that where I think at least in the first few seasons there was that really struggle of like you mentioned Christine that like
Mhm.
the her struggle to accept her destiny. But I think a big part of that was like she was like, yes, this is my destiny, but also I'm going to do all these other normal people things, and it just each season just like took that away from her until she was just
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is also a queer experience where you're like, oh, I'm gonna, I know a lot of us do have kids or whatnot, but there's a lot of things where you're like doing it this way, especially in my early 20s, there was like, well, yes, I'm gonna be gay, but I'm also gonna just be just like my brother and have this and this and this and this because I'm not gonna be that and that's such a and then like slowly you just start to not really care that much about that
Yeah.
anymore. You do kind of
Right.
focus in on what you actually want and what's for you is for you. And I think that's such a big part of her story, which is why it's attracts us all like a
Hmm.
bird bath. I swear to God, the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big part of it.
And it's such I one of the things I loved watching it, being on the inside of it was, and also a fan of it, was it starts out so black and white and it just gets grayer and grayer and grayer and more complicated as to, who people are. They're not
Yeah.
just like good and bad, they're complicated. And
Yes.
I I love that because that's the way the world goes too.
You
And
know,
and such a big part of the growing up
yes.
process is learning to, yeah.
I think sometimes people now, you like perfectly stated why I love the show, because I think sometimes people now want their main characters or their heroes to be perfect. And I
Mhm.
think on Buffy, no one was. And that's what I love about it. I don't want
Yeah.
them to be perfect. I like that Joyce can say, you're not allowed to come back, but then be upset when Buffy does not come back because she didn't really mean it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we
Right.
allow these characters to not be 100% because no one
Yeah.
is 100%.
Right. Right. We're all flawed,
Yeah.
and that's I think the biggest. I'm going to get all like,
Do it.
deep
Do it.
here, but
Oh, no.
I think forgiving people for being complicated and flawed is one of the biggest challenges in
Yeah.
life. Like
Yeah.
accepting that your mom couldn't be the way that you wanted her to when you came out.
Yeah.
Like we all disappoint and we all are disappointed. And, just I mean, I'm still working on
Same.
accepting that how complicated people are.
Yeah.
How much I need to forgive them for disappointing me or not believing in the same things that I believe in, or not not processing things the way I think.
Yes.
Like you think for a long time that everybody sees the world the way you do. And I'm just getting to the age where I'm like, wow, what is going on in other people's heads? Like, what do they literally see out their eyes
Yeah.
and think in their minds? Because we are all so different. And for years, I thought that, my version of things was the real version of things.
Yes,
And
I think
and it's so much
that's,
more complicated than that. And I can judge people too quickly where I don't know it's still growing up here.
Listen.
I have learned none of these lessons yet. It's even more, because I think now even more so, you think the internet's going to promote this wave of understanding, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of, I think it has. I think it has. I mean, like you mentioned, the difference between New York and the '80s, and like there
Yeah.
has been it's not a complete understanding, and it definitely is nowhere where it should be or deserves to be. But sometimes where I'm like, I'm online, and I'm like, I know people are seeing the same things I am. So why is
Hmm.
this? Why is this not? Why are we? Like it's you wonder how is this person processing it, and maybe the answer is they're not, and it's they're
Yeah.
shoving it away somewhere. But I think that's the thing that like great art can do, and I think something that Buffy really did, which was like whether it was a demon or a person or whatever, like there's you sort of look at that person, it promotes that understanding. You take a closer look every time
Mhm.
there was always a, oh, but also consider this of someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to ask you, you mentioned that you did know Joyce was going to pass.
Yes.
I've heard us like, because Buffy, like you said, existed when the internet was kind of in early stages.
Mhm.
There are so many things that it's funny that I remember reading on like a posting board when I was like 16 that people will still say as a fact. And it's like, well, I think that was just a rumor. The story is always that Joss took you aside like a year before to tell you that Joyce was going to pass. Is that how that went?
Yeah, but the only reason that he had to was because I made an appointment with him because I had this opportunity to go and live in Italy for a year.
Okay.
And so I really wrestled with whether I was going to go or not. And because I didn't know, I didn't have like a full on contract for Buffy. So I
Okay.
could do anything I wanted to, but I also didn't know what they intended to do with me. And I didn't want to leave the show, but I also knew that in the big scheme of life, going there for a year and having the opportunity to do this would be absolutely life changing. And it was.
Yeah.
So I had to go tell him that I was going to go away. So I made an appointment with him and I went in and I said, I'm planning on going to Italy next year to live. And he said, um, okay. He goes, are you coming back? And I went, yeah, I'm just going to be there for a year and then we're coming back. He goes, oh, good, good, because I'm going to kill you off. But I just want to make sure you're around. And I said, listen, I'm going there. I'm going to be in Italy. If, I'm happy to fly back and do episodes, but I just need to do this thing for myself. So he said, cool. And he said, don't tell anybody. So I didn't. I am, such a good little girl.
I
I,
would have been like, I won't tell anyone and then tell 10 people immediately.
Right.
so my husband knew, and he never
Yeah.
told anybody either. So yeah, I did 4 episodes that year. And like two before I left and two, I think in January, and they planned it out. And so when I came back, that was season 3
You were away for
or
season 4.
4. Okay, so that was season 4. And
Hmm.
so I came back knowing, that and so it was this such a long period of knowing that it was going to be over. Like, of course, like, wouldn't the show be over at some point?
Right.
Yeah.
But that you were going to get killed off was, it was really going to be a ending. And so it was very bittersweet. And of course, every week I didn't go in and go, so when is it happening?
Right.
I'm just not that kind of a person. I show up and, oh, I've got a new daughter today. Okay, cool. I can handle that.
Sure, yeah.
You know, just like give me the set of imaginary circumstances. I'm coming in. And, but we would get our scripts. We wouldn't get our scripts until like sometimes the day before, but maybe 2 days before.
Oof.
And everybody would be like, reading them, and I'm reading them
Wow.
and going. So I didn't know when it was going to happen. And when I was in the hospital, right before, I thought that it was going to happen
Mm.
then. And then suddenly I had this date and everything was great. And we shot that at the end of the season. So when I shot that, I didn't know I was just about to die.
Yeah.
And they used that to open that
Yeah.
season. It was interesting
Huh.
that he chose to shoot that before anybody knew that I was going to die,
When
including me.
do you remember when was everyone else told before they got the script for the body, or was it kind of like they didn't find out till
Yeah,
then?
I don't think they did.
Huh.
I mean, Sarah may have known because she was, such an integral part
Yeah.
of, she was like, as when they said when we first started the show, I think one of the producers said, yeah, she's 19 going on 50. I mean, she was such a seasoned pro and she, was never quiet about what she thought needed to happen. She,
Kristine, that is the most consistent thing every actor has said that I've had on from Buffy is
Mhm.
she knew all her lines, she never messed up. She was like a pro from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot from her, you know. I mean, one time I'm out there and, we're doing this scene. And at one point she just kind of leaned in and went, you're in my light. I was like, oh, sorry. You know, it never happened again. I mean, anywhere, not just with her, but like I was always, because you lean in and
Yeah.
you're cutting off somebody's light. And that was like, oh yeah, got
Like,
that
right, right,
down.
right.
Never happened again.
Okay, so Ian, highly sensitive person, Ian, if Sarah Michelle Gellar told you you're in my life, would you avoid light at all times for
I
the
would
rest
need
of
to
your
meld into
life?
the ground. Like it's the season 7 costume designer, because season 7 there was a different person. He came on for every episode of season 7 to give, he had like receipts and like he had a binder of all the scripts, so he knew everything. And he actually said there was one day when he messed up and Sarah called him personally on the phone to be like, hey, you forgot to bring my bag. And he was like, she was polite about it, but I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he like
Yeah.
drove
No,
there
she was,
personally to bring her the bag.
yeah, she was a pro. She was
Yeah.
a real pro.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I do want to ask,
Okay.
your final appearance on the show is as the first. What was that like being able to, you're still playing Joyce, but Joyce is not quite Joyce. How
Honey,
was
I just
that?
showed up and put on the dress. Okay. I'll just tell you the truth. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't really understand the dress. I didn't understand what I was doing there. I didn't understand how I could I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I just like stood where I was supposed to stand and said whatever I said or didn't say. I had no idea, and I've never seen the episode because
Oh, really?
I felt so like lost and at sea. Was I alive? Was I dead? I mean, I didn't,
Well, you nailed it. You nailed it.
thank you. Thank you.
That's for me, that's one of the scariest episodes of the show. Like when
Oh,
Joyce
interesting.
flashes behind Dawn, like, oof. I remember watching that live being like, but you did so good and you didn't even know. So look at that.
Thank you.
It's always nice to hear.
Yeah.
Kristine, thank you so much for giving us your time and talking with
Oh,
us.
thank you
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.
I
It's always a pleasure and a joy to talk about Buffy, and you guys are fantastic.
I doing this podcast has been really nice because I don't think I've had a bad experience with anyone I've interviewed, but
Mhm.
it's always nice, like, I grew up seeing you. You were the mom, and
Yeah.
it's always nice when those people are extremely sweet like you are.
Great.
Energy matches. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And let everyone know where they can find you online.
I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you next
Great.
time.
Thank you.